welcome. I'm your host Shagun Luthra, and this is Stars on Sustainability, a podcast series from Earth Inherited, a platform where we explore how sustainability intersects with the most unexpected corners of our lives. Think about the most iconic events in India: weddings and cricket matches. They're vibrant, memorable, and undeniably impactful. Have you ever stopped to think about the environmental cost of these celebrations? Today, we are diving into the world of sustainable events with Nupur Agarwal, co founder of Green Myna, a sustainable events management firm and a pioneer in designing eco conscious experiences from everything from sports to wedding. And a pioneer in designing eco conscious experiences for everything from sports to weddings. Welcome, Nupur, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for calling me. I'm always excited to speak about events. And yeah, when sustainability and events come together, Green Myna should be there.
Lovely. Nupur, tell me, what does Green Myna signify?
Yeah, I have been asked this question because the name is unusual. So basically, when we started Green Myna, it started with the whole idea of weddings and couples coming together. Myna is the Indian species bird, the two myna that we often see on the road. And the idea, I come from Calcutta, and there was this popular superstition there that if you see two mynas together, it is supposed to be lucky. Okay. So you're supposed to just blow kisses to them and your day will be nice. So I always stuck to that idea because it worked for me when I was a kid. And that's how I was like, okay, let me just put this name. And Myna was given that we will put it as Myna. And green just got associated with it. So Green Myna is the name because of this.
And you have co-founded this company with your husband. Your husband and you do this together.
So I met my husband on a beach cleanup. And we used to just clean one section together. He is from a merchant navy background, so he always had stories to tell me about hijacking and this and that. And for us, cleaning the beach was our date ground. After cleaning, we used to go on breakfast dates, go for awareness talks together. And before we knew, we were ready to get married. And one thing we were very certain was that we will not generate what we pick up from the beach. And that's how the concept of zero waste to landfill wedding was something that we were very, very certain we want to do.
So Nupur, what was your wedding like? And what are the practices that you brought into the wedding that were eco-friendly that you have replicated across weddings thereafter?
So honestly, it's not, again, it might seem like a daunting task, but it is not. Maybe because we've been doing this, but the point is that there are few things which generate almost 80% of the waste. So if you take care of those few things, you don't have to really do the 100 other things that come with it. Right. So for us, the main thing was, of course, the decoration. Because, now that we have been in this space for almost 4 to 5 years, we are maintaining statistics of the weddings that we are kind of making it sustainable. And the difference that we know we can see from our statistics itself is appalling. Like, for example, just to quote, there was, if a normal Indian wedding happens of, say, 300 guests, and I'm just talking about, say, maybe 2 events. Generally, Indian weddings have like Sangeet, Haldi, Mehendi, lot of events, right? So if I'm just talking about Haldi and Shadi, 300 guests, it can generate up to 15,000 plastic bottles. That's the number.
God.
And I'm talking about the small ones.
Yes.
So that is, and imagine by just replacing it with the dispenser or with taking the support of the caterer, you are actually avoiding just that much by making one step. By just taking that one step or making that one change. So we decided to sit down and first, decode the bigger elements. So decoration being one. I'm not sure if many people know the green floral foam, which is used in the bouquets, that's non-recyclable. So it will go in the landfill. So even if you send it to a segregation center or a recycling unit, it will still be dumped.
Nothing can be done about it.
Nothing can be done. And we clean those floral foams from our beach. So it gets broken into small pellets and it looks like food. So it's actually being eaten by the marine life there, marine fishes and all of that stuff. And it's very, very injurious to their health.
Of course.
So the idea is that when we suggest, we break down elements from that level. So it's not just about, local flowers versus artificial flowers. We break down in terms of, okay, what is the decor that you're looking at? What is the aesthetics that you are trying to replicate? Can we substitute it by natural elements? Like, for example, again, the oasis can be replaced with banana stem. That's a simple solution. What are the oases giving? It's about nutrition. It's about like keeping the flowers fresh. Same thing can be done by a banana stem or just aloe vera sticks. So, just breaking down these bigger elements of decor, catering, because again, catering, one of the things we have noticed is food wastage at weddings can be again,
So much.
Yeah. Like, the numbers, if I again give statistics, from one wedding of 3,000, that was a big wedding, I must confess.
Of course, 3,000 is a
3,000
lot.
people wedding that we did in central India, Raipur. And we fed about, I think, close to 4,000 people with just the excess food.
Wow.
I'm not even joking. These are the figures. And when we were distributing the food, there were people who came to us and said, Paneer kya hota hai? For things we take for so granted. People there didn't even know what was paneer. Like, we went to the outskirts of the city.
Right.
So catering, decoration, waste management becomes absolutely essential. So how we work is we come in two steps. One is waste minimization.
Right.
Things where we can give suggestions, which can be replaced with alternatives, and then waste management angle, which is about segregating your waste. So generally, you do a dry and a wet waste segregation. We try to do more categories at source itself.
Okay.
We make waste stations where you can come and just give. You don't have to put it in the dustbins.
So what would a person give?
So for example, it could just be like, if it's a plate, like a normal wedding plate, you have served your food. So on that plate, you will find, say, of course, leftover food, because if it's free buffet, people end up taking a lot more. But also along with it, you'll find some tissues. You might find some, if it's not a reusable cutlery, you might find some cutlery, crockery, those kind of options, straws. I'm just decoding a plate for you. So when he gives us the plate, we actually just segregate it and put it in 5 bins.
Okay.
So then we send that to the recycling unit, because segregation at an event is sacrosanct. Because moment waste gets mixed, the recycling value will go down. And in a wedding or in an event, you can't expect the guest to be aware of segregating, right? When you're doing it at home, you are in that mindset.
Right.
In an event, you're just thinking fun. And especially if there is like, you have alcohol, you have this, or you have other stuff, right?
It's not a priority
It's
for
not a
people.
priority. It's not something you're aware of. Many times the dustbins are placed in the dark. You don't even see the wet and the dry waste signs. So where do you put it? So not to blame them, but there is a way to kind of, really do it better.
But that's where events like this come in, sensitizing people that there is an option, because otherwise there is no option. You take the plate and then you're done and you move on to the next part of it.
Yes.
But there is a substantial effort required then, on ground effort, which is what you're making.
Yes. And see, again, Indian weddings is a very different ball game than any other event, because there are a lot of emotions.
Right.
And it's like high octane emotions. One thing goes here and there, and that's the only thing people remember. So we as event planners, and that also sustainable event planners, need to be very, very careful. So when I say this, what I mean is that we don't want the event to be a awareness program.
Okay.
All right? So it's
Fair.
not that we are trying to teach the guest that you need to segregate your waste or you need to be conscious. You have come to bless the couple. We are doing a sustainable wedding because we want to. You just need to enjoy it, right? So we need to not put it out there that don't bring this, don't do this, don't, because there are too many don'ts for the guest. So it has to be very subtly told to them in a way that does not harm any sentiments.
But also, you are doing the work. You're not making them do the work.
And also, again, when it comes to environment and weddings, for example, if we tell the caterer that 20% extra khana nahi, 10% extra khana banana, because just buffer. So the parents will come and say that खाना कम नहीं पड़ना चाहिए, right?
Correct.
And which we understand. It cannot be a state that khana khatam ho gaya, because I mean that's the only thing people will remember. So we also have to work with the sentiments that first event, if there is a 4 event that we have got for one wedding, first event we don't tell the caterer anything. We let him play by his rules. Now we know that these many guests are going to come. So for the second, third, and fourth, we tell him the numbers and we tell him to control. So then that is kind of like, you know, wo negotiation hota hai with the parents. This is the agreed, हाँ चलो ठीक है, this is something we agree upon. So for us, you know, it's so funny that it's like we start and the parents will start and we have to meet somewhere midway.
I was just going to ask you this, Nupur. In India, weddings are all about the sentiment, and it's the big event in everybody's life. खर्चा नहीं खर्चा करेंगे, कुछ
Yeah.
कम नहीं पड़ना चाहिए, लोगों को याद आना चाहिए, you should remember the food. So what are those early conversations with families like for you when you bring people on board, or do they approach you and say, we want to do a more sustainable wedding? How does that journey happen, or begin rather?
So, you know, like again, a lot of couples come to us. So, to be honest, it's not so much the family. We get queries from a lot of couples. Another interesting fact is we get queries from a lot of NRI crowd as well as tier 2, tier 3. It's very rare that we get queries from cities like Bombay and Delhi,
Okay.
which itself was a surprise to us. You know, why is that we have not managed to crack it? But we know this is happening in our at least queries that we get regularly. And interestingly, when it comes to, you know, trying to do a sustainable wedding, when the couples come to us, they said, we really want it, but can you convince my parents? So our role is not just to do the event sustainably, it's also to meet and convince the parents that, uncle, ye bhi karna cha rahe hain, aap ye kar sakte ho kya? When it comes to the vendors, that's a different ecosystem altogether.
Of course.
You know, when we do work with the decorator or the caterer. But, you know, when it comes to handling the emotions of the parents, we have to just assure them again and again that the ethos of an Indian wedding will not be compromised, right? So, and we also keep telling them that sustainable wedding is not a theme. It's not like my wedding theme is Bollywood or it's
Okay,
Rajasthan.
yeah.
It's not that it's a theme. It is something that is supposed to be at the background.
Right.
You know, it's not something that's supposed to be right there in front of everyone.
Not in your face.
Not in your face. And if you think of those things, that's when a wedding becomes seamless. That's when people will come enjoy the wedding without probably even realizing that they have not seen plastic or they have not used this, you know. There might be, of course, the couple sometimes make an announcement saying that, you know, did you know that this wedding was sustainable or something like that. Many couples want to pass that message in their wedding card itself, which is upon the couple. But for us, the endeavor is that it should look like any regular Indian wedding.
Nupur, I'm sure that guests at the wedding are noticing the change and how different this wedding is from a regular wedding, because they're seeing there are no plastic bottles, they're seeing there's waste segregation, and because you're not shoving it down their throats, I'm sure people are appreciating the difference. So have guests come up to you, and what are the questions that they normally ask you?
Oh, that's also another interesting. I think I should write a book on just all of these points, because see, one thing we do is we try to put some subtle messages, like for example, where the food's laid out, we just put some message when you're serving yourself near the plate counter, we put leave only blessings for the couple, not food on your plate. You know, just
Right.
subtle messages like that. And you know, those are the things people notice, and when you read it right before you're serving is when the difference is the greatest, because we've tried placing it at different parts of the you know, the event, and we realize this works the best psychologically. One thing we often do is we dig a composting pit in and around the venue, because again, the wet waste is very, very high, you know, for weddings like this, specifically when it comes to kitchen waste. You know, the kitchen peels that the caterers can give us. So the wedding waste or the wet waste is very high. The local flowers that we use for decoration, all of this. So many a times, because the wet waste cannot be you know, transported to a recycling unit. So for example, if we do wedding in areas like Raipur or Anjar, and I mean, you know, sometimes when we get queries, we don't even know where it is in India. But when we get those areas, we try to do composting in and around the venue. and the dry waste can stay. So then after all the events are done, the dry waste can be transported.
Right.
But for the composting, many a times we actually tell the guests that you go and visit the composting pit, which is around, it's somewhere like literally 100 meters away from the venue.
Okay.
And it itself becomes an activity. Like one of the events that we did, the bride and groom, after their haldi, they went and actually put their flowers, that flower jewelry.
Jaimala.
No, not Jaimala, the flower jewelry
Okay.
that they wore. And they went and walked to the compost pit to put it together. And
How
that
satisfying for them.
yeah, and it was a good photo op also for them. It was
Sure.
part of their shoot. So the guests came, and one question I'll never forget, because one of these guests came and said, "Is wedding में तो plastic नहीं है?" I said, So then he said, "अच्छा ये गड्ढे में डाल दिया ना आप लोग ने?" So I was like, "नहीं, ये composting pit है, इसमें wet waste जाता है." हाँ, तो plastic तो compost होता है ना? So sometimes these questions you get, and you don't want to react at that moment that, oh my God, you don't know this. But you just feel good that, okay, this question exists.
Right.
You feel that people know this much. It's very basic. But in places like this, when you do an event, you realize that you have to start from ground zero.
I think it's important because you're also showing that there is an alternative. Because for most people, they've not thought about it, right? This is the way we've been doing. You have this large stage decor. Have you had to fight to, make sure that the decor is not wasteful?
Honestly, fight is the wrong word. Or maybe fight is the word that we use for everything that we do at that wedding.
Right.
To be honest, I think for us, we can do sustainable wedding, be it a 1 lakh budget wedding to a 80 lakh budget wedding. Because even large decoration can be made sustainable. And it is not something that really compromises with the look and feel of things. Like simple things, if you have to cover a mass area, we'll say rent the plants.
Okay.
Just use those kind of green shades and, those kind of things that you can go with. We can just suggest simple alternatives, like I said about, using even the banana stem, not just for Oasis, but even the look and feel for...
What is Oasis?
The green floral foam. That's called Oasis.
Okay.
So, just all these things, simple things like even a mithai ka dabba, that has got plastic lining in it, right? So many couples come and tell us what is the alternative for that. So then we sit and be like, okay, why don't you go ahead and purane zamane mein wo steel ke dabbes hote the with your names engraved. Do that. Like, there are still steel people, like, workers in the factory who can engrave your names and put your date. Because the dabbas will stay with your guest forever.
Right.
And you just have to go and give it to the mithai shop and he will do it. And another thing is culturally, we have done a Maharashtrian wedding, we have done Bengali wedding, we have done a wedding in Kerala, we have done Punjabi wedding. Cultural nuances and how waste can be so different in each of these weddings itself is so strange. Like in Maharashtrian wedding, there is something called Mangalashtika, where they throw rice at the couple when, that Shubh Muhurat is happening.
Yes.
So what we did was we just gave them a bowl of rice. Everybody just touched it and we just kept it near the couple.
Why
So
waste food?
Why waste food? Because you are
Nice.
offering rice. So, in a way, you're still blessing it through rice, right? So we sat down with the parents and we said, what is the essence of this ritual?
The blessing.
What is when you're doing this throwing of the rice, what are we doing? And many times parents come and say, we never think why we do certain rituals. We just do it. Now that you're asking me, I'll read upon it and come back to you. And when they said that, it was just about abundance. Rice represents abundance. So you want to just kind of show abundance. Then another thing in a Bengali wedding is they have something called trays, like totto, which they decorate. So there are 35 trays that is exchanged between the girl family and the boy family. And this couple was very clear that we don't want to use plastic to cover the trays. So we again sat down and were like, what is the alternative? Because you want it see-through. You want people to see what is being displayed at the wedding, because what is the gift being exchanged is also something that people want the guests to see, right? Like
And
it's a
nobody
display.
wants to compromise on the ritual. Nobody wants to change the ritual, and you want to keep the significance there but make it a little easier. So what did you do with the trays?
So, of course, the trays had to be put. We did a display, but what we did was we used boxes rather than the bigger trays. We filled it, instead of using, and we collected the trays through our waste management team over 2-3 months. and we covered it with something called sheer fabric, oasis fabric that is called. And we, after the wedding, actually made potlies out of it. And there was a ritual that was done after the wedding, and that gifts were put in those potlies. Yeah. So, I mean, everything has a crack code. You know, it's like if you think of it as a coder, you know, you're developing something. If you think of it as a coder, there is always a crack. And you have to just find that thing, and just that plastic code will be broken and you will find your code.
Also, Indians are so good at jugaad. We are the ones who've come up with it. It's just that you are using jugaad to do positive change, right? To bring about some sort of greener impact.
Yeah, you can say that. Like I said, it's also fun, right? Like, because we have learned so much.
And so creative.
Yeah. You have to be a little like, you know, you just sit down. But again, like the brainstorming sessions we have, when we have to break, okay, iska kya karna hai, itself is like, you know, you just like, and again, one very easy reference frame for us is how it was done 20 years back. It's just so easy to kind of just go back to, you know, what they used to do. And you just bring that. Like many people come and say that our budgets are going a little haywire because it is expensive, a little bit more expensive, and it comes to economies of scale.
Right.
The demand is less, the supply is less,
Right.
like from that perspective. So we just simply say, what are the things you don't want to do? Probably a pre-wedding photo shoot, if you can avoid that, you know, because again, we come from a space where it was never a fashion, doing pre-wedding shoot. And they're like, yeah, that is the money we'll save, so we can put that in this aspect. Again, it's like, how do I use that word? It's almost like, ye nahi to wo sahi, kind of, it's a negotiation.
Ye nahi to wo sahi brings me to a game actually that I wanted to play with you, which is called If Not Then What.
Okay.
So I'm going to read off this. I'm going to give you some, you know, I'm going to give you some practices and you can tell me what is the alternative for it.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, if not paper invitations, then what?
Digital, but also recycled paper, also handmade paper, not seed paper.
Okay. If not floral decorations that are discarded after the wedding, then what?
Floral decorations, yes, can be upcycled, but at the same time, you can go ahead with renting plants, renting flowers.
If not traditional buffet setups that lead to food waste, then what?
Best is the sadhyas. I think that's the lowest waste that we could ever see. But yeah, sit down, and even I think in the North Indian rituals, you have the, I can't keep forgetting these ritual words, but you make the guests sit down and you serve them.
Right.
So it's just mehman nawazi, and that's so, so, so good.
If not traditional high energy lighting setups, then what?
Day weddings, natural
Okay.
lights,
If not expensive single use bridal outfits, then what?
rent, or best is that there's this whole saying, right? Something blue, something borrow, something.
Something new, something
Something
old,
old,
something
something-
borrowed, something blue.
Correct. Yes, exactly. So follow that. So for your wedding outfit, borrow it or take it from your parents or your mother, whatever. That works the best.
If not wasteful, non eco friendly giveaways, then what?
Plants, plant trees. For every guest, just plant one tree. Take the blessings of Mother Earth and not just your guests.
That is very interesting. I'm going to ask you something, Nupur. Given that people now want to Insta their weddings, does this become like a cool factor for couples?
And it's okay. We don't mind for what reason you want to do a sustainable wedding, just do it.
Right.
If you want to talk about it, we'll help you talk about it. We'll tell you the PR messages that you should put. But, and in fact, it's good, right? It's just going to spread awareness. It's going to get more and more people to talk about it. So, but one thing I want to also say is that there is a whole notion that sustainable weddings are expensive. Please trust us, it's not. It's just about knowing how to give importance to few things and how to not give importance to things that might not matter so much.